One signature on a $30 return form ruined the life of an innocent person and set in motion a scheme that demanded new victims. Return form number 482. In the returns department of a Phoenix supermarket, the air was heavy with lamps and paper dust. Riley sat behind the counter, staring at the screen with its endless list of items. What circled in her head were not numbers, but the overdue mortgage payment and the HR letter. "Your promotion request has been postponed until next quarter." She felt like part of the furniture, needed but invisible. The door chime rang. A middle-aged man in a crumpled denim jacket walked in. On his sleeve, a faded patch read, "Coyote Audio," still eye-catching. In his hands, he held a box with a child's tablet. "Kid's in the hospital," he said too quickly. "Lost the receipt. We need the money." The manual's answer was simple: decline. But the phrase stuck. Riley looked at the box, at the customer's tired face, and at the poster above the registers. Integrity Week. Honesty starts with you. She felt the words of the manual losing weight. She opened the form. On the screen appeared, "Operation number 482, register 07, return type, no receipt." The system waited for confirmation. Riley held her breath and pressed accept. The printer sped out a sheet. Refund amount, $29.99. The paper smelled of fresh ink. The man thanked her too sharply and disappeared through the door. Riley filed the document into processed. Among hundreds of others, it looked unremarkable, but inside she felt she had shifted an invisible stone. She looked at the screen. A line of code and time of transaction glowed there. No alarms, just a dry number, just a mark in the database. In the corner, the clock ticked. Its rhythm neither carried reproach nor praise. Everything looked as if nothing special had happened. But form number 482 had already taken its place, and with it, the first crack, invisible to the system, but felt by her alone. The next day, Riley opened the report. Among the familiar lines of returns, one stood out, $29.99. Formally unremarkable, but she knew this was her breach. At lunch, the manager summoned her. The office was faceless: desk, coffee machine, blinds. "Did the customer have a receipt?" he asked curtly. "Yes," Riley answered. The conversation ended there. He jotted a note, switched to a phone call. That evening, Riley received an automatic message from the corporate system. "In 482, document attached, status closed." Back at her desk, she opened the internal database. To justify the return, she needed to change only 3 fields: return type from no receipt to with receipt, generate a random code for document number, shift the purchase date back 28 days. The system logged the correction. Change made by user 10.4.19.31, 14/22. Everything looked flawless. That same day, the department inbox received a mailing. "Thank you, Riley, for your customer focus, recognizing your attention to shoppers' needs." Co-workers forwarded it with ironic emojis, but no one asked questions. Riley closed the browser and looked at the empty checkout zone. No anxiety. The forgery had taken less than a minute, and the system had swallowed it without hesitation. What remained was 3 altered fields and a log line. She stayed late. In processed, lay form number 482, neatly filed among others. It looked like all the rest. Only she knew it was false. Outside, the store hummed with air conditioners. Inside, order reigned. Reports matched, the database updated, the manager satisfied. That evening, walking to her car, Riley realized it had all been too easy. No scandal, no guilt. Just thank you for customer focus and a line in the archive. And it was precisely in this simplicity that danger lay. A week later, the system logged another return. A man brought back a toaster. Strange smell. Riley clicked through the fields again. The forgery took less than a minute. Then it became frequent. Someone returned a set of towels, too rough. Another customer brought back a toothbrush. Taste didn't suit me. Riley ticked boxes, shifted dates, generated receipt codes. Documents stacked in the folder as neatly as tiles in a warehouse. Soon, the sums multiplied. An automated program sent a report. Loss prevention bot, anomaly detected, low significance, risk level green. The message looked comical next to the real totals, already past several $100s. Riley filed the email under MISC. Each new fiction seemed easier than the last. The system objected to nothing, management noticed nothing, reports matched. Inside, she felt a new sense of control, as if numbers were clay, malleable to any reality. The only thing that bothered her was the shared terminal nearby. Jenna often left it open when stepping out for a smoke. After 5 minutes, the system auto-extended her session. Jenna R/active. Riley noticed and stored the fact silently. Colleagues began whispering. Accounting discussed the rise in return activity. In the smoking area, guesses floated, maybe the discount campaign's affected, or the system is glitching. No one tied it to Riley. She lingered at the office later than all. On her screen, another form. Item, hairdryer. Reason, too loud. Riley changed the date, inserted receipt code, confirmed. The document joined processed. System stamped time and IP, 10.4.19.31/2137. Perfectly legal. She switched off the light, looked across the rows of desks. On one sat Jenna's mug, forgotten after her shift. Her terminal still glowed with auto-login. Riley knew, if needed, this could become a convenient escape. Thus, the chain of false returns turned into a mechanism, and it ran without fault. The returns department lived its routine. Lamp buzz, rustle of receipts, hum of scanners. But figures in reports rose too fast, and even the most indifferent employees noticed. Closest to the anomalies was Jenna. She worked at the neighboring terminal. Neat, diligent, always by the book. During a break, she once said, "If they don't approve my loan, I can't get Mom into treatment. I just need to avoid any trouble at work." Riley nodded, neutral. That same day, she used Jenna's auto-login. Jenna had gone for a smoke, terminal still active. Session extended, top of screen glowing, Jenna RI active. In return templates, the fields were preset. Type, with receipt, period, 28 days. Riley only swapped item and amount. The form printed under Jenna's name. Everything looked proper. Days later, accounting summoned her into a windowless office. A woman in glasses opened a list of operations. These returns processed under your login. Small sums, but repeated. "I didn't do this," Jenna said, shaken. "The system shows your name." The reply was dry. "Check. Maybe you forgot." "No, I'm sure." "Fine. We'll note it and escalate." The dialogue ended as plainly as it began. Jenna walked out, clutching her folder. In the corridor, she met Riley and whispered, "It's all strange. I'm afraid it might ruin my loan." Riley feigned surprise, shrugged, and wished her luck. That evening, Riley stayed again. Jenna's terminal glowed with auto-login, cursor blinking. Riley opened the quick template and filled a new fiction. Item, kettle. Amount, $41.20. The document slid into processed. Routine as ever. Only now, Jenna had become part of the scheme without knowing. The investigation became official. Security staff arrived. Suits, folders, cold faces. They set up cameras, collected reports, launched checks. On the lobby screen, the corporate reel played Integrity Week, Day 3, Honesty and Numbers. A cheerful narrator spoke about trust in the system, while auditors flipped through forged returns. The contrast was absurd. All evidence pointed to Jenna. Printouts matched her login, Jenna_R. Return times were during her shifts. Cameras confirmed her presence. Yet in those moments, the footage had a blind spot. The screen corner out of view. The papers aligned perfectly, as if the system itself nudged the case forward. "It wasn't me," Jenna repeated. "I didn't process these." "The database shows your login. Logs confirm." Riley sat nearby as witness. She gave short comments, displayed shift printouts, offered prepared notes. Her voice was calm, as if about another department. Days later, Riley left the supermarket after work, walking to the parking lot. At the Coyote Audio storefront, she spotted the same jacket. The man with the patch held his son's hand, healthy, laughing. He carried a bag with new speakers. "Oh, it's you," he said brightly. "You pulled off my magic return back then. Thanks again." Riley nodded and walked on. Inside, a stab. There had been no sick child. For the first time, she allowed herself the excuse, "I was deceived first. Now, it's a game without rules." The next day, the commission gave its verdict. Operations tied to Jenna's login. Times matching her shifts. Camera presence confirmed. Decision? Suspended pending inquiry. The department fell silent. Riley knew. The substitution was sealed by numbers. The system absolved her and assigned another guilty. By spring, the audits intensified. Security requested new reports. Accounting printed fresh tables. The atmosphere grew sticky. Everyone awaited the outcome. The decisive case was a laughable return. A customer brought a toothbrush, said, "Didn't like the taste." Logged under Jenna R, date her shift, camera again hitting the blind zone. That trivial form became the final nail. Jenna was summoned with staff to the office. A stack of papers on the table. One auditor pointed to a line, IP match. Riley froze. The digits were hers. For a second, she thought the trap had closed. But the second auditor flipped the report, said flatly, "Low significance, bot classified as random duplication." Silence. Within a minute, the focus returned to Jenna. She paled, tried to argue, but documents spoke louder. By evening, the decision was final, her dismissal permanent. Weeks later came the dry facts. Job interview rejection, not aligned with corporate standards. Court summons, division of property. Move to a small flat on the outskirts. Marriage ended, neighbors turned away. Meanwhile, a new corporate email appeared. "Thank you, Riley, for reducing customer complaints." Attached were his certificate and a mug printed "Integrity, our DNA." Colleagues mocked the merch, but pinned the certificate on the entrance board. That night, Riley sat at her computer. In process lay the toothbrush form. The printer awaited fresh input. Calmly, she typed, "Item, hairdryer. Reason, too loud for the cat." The sheet slid out. Everything looked flawless. A year later, the returns department was entirely renewed. In the lobby hung new posters. Integrity Week 2.0. Honesty starts with you. In the annual financial report, one number stood out: $127,540 in losses. Comment: anomalies detected. Investigation closed. Riley was transferred to a branch on the outskirts. In corporate mail, her name appeared in the thank you list for strengthening customer trust. On the honor board hung her photo, Employee of the Month. Jenna, meanwhile, worked in a roadside diner. Her resumes went unanswered. Court papers covered her table. Nights she returned to a small apartment smelling of oil and cheap detergent. In the archive remained one document: Form number 482, refund $29.99, archive stamp. Yellowed paper, ink, stamp, straight line. One evening, Riley left work. On the lot hung banners, Integrity Week 2.0. Further ahead, the Coyote audio window displayed an ad. A man with a child holding a tablet, reading "Trust without a receipt." She walked past toward her car. Form number 482 stayed in the archive.